Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour on Saga 960. Joseph's description of the future with AI potentially destroying huge amounts of jobs and having mass unemployment and harming democracy is a pretty negative point of view as to the future. I don't agree with him, but there's a lot of things in his prognosis that we should be concerned about. There was a article just this week in Bloomberg newspaper magazine that I think got a fair amount of attention that was really very negative about the current situation in Canada. I'd like to read a little bit from it. Canada has long prided itself on its social programs meant to reduce poverty and equalize access to what are seen as core rights like healthcare, education, food, and shelter. It spends hundreds of billions of dollars a year on social safety supports that are a major reason millions of people want to move to the northern nation. But key parts of its safety net are fraying, in some cases badly. In 2013, Canada ranked 13 out of 170 countries in meeting the basic needs of its citizens, according to data tracked by Social Progress Imperative. In 2023, it had fallen to 39th, in large part because of a lack of affordable housing. We've gone from 13th to 39th, and in a large part because of a lack of affordable housing. This is an issue that we really need to wake up to and pay attention to. And I think that the federal government is doing so. The provincial government is sort of doing so. I don't think municipalities have at all. They're still living in this world of the past where they can listen to the naysayers that don't want any kind of housing development, when we are harming our children, harming the next generation, and renters that want to become homeowners, and newcomers that want to live the Canadian dream. That's why we attracted them to come here, and they came here. But our children can no longer afford the Canadian dream because of what we have done. The Bloomberg article goes through a lot of other problems. Our prosperity, our productivity is down dramatically. We used to have prosperity comparable to the United States. It's now 30-40% below the United States on a per capita basis. What has gone wrong? I think we have to, as a society, as a community, we have to take a good hard look at what we have done. And I think a lot of it is red tape regulation. And that's what the Bloomberg article says. That's what the housing report that came out by the provincial government said. The housing report that came out by the federal government said. That's what CMHC says. That's what Stats Canada say. And the rules and red tape and regulation are worse in the housing area than almost any other area of society. The front page of the Globe and Mail on the weekend was how we ballooned our public service. Debt, deficit, too many of our employees are civil servants. And yet we don't seem to want, or at least demand, efficiency in government. We've had these front page news of ArriveCan, and we've seen day by day in Toronto the disaster of the Eglinton Crosstown. I sat down with someone who knows a lot about procurement, and she said this is all because of a bad procurement process in the provincial government that is focused on separating contracts out to a whole bunch of small pieces and giving it to the lowest bidder, when what you get therefore is low quality and lack of coordination between entities. I think that this attitude that we had in Mississauga towards separation of Mississauga from the rest of Peel was politically attractive. There's no question. It's got some attraction to it, just like Brexit had some attraction to it, just like Quebec separation has some attraction to it. But it was wrong-headed. And the analyses that were done that said it would cost $1.5 billion, I think, made sense. Why do we have so much government, so much civil service, so many politicians that try to justify their existence, that create red tape, regulation, that stymies development, that stymies entrepreneurship, that stymies capitalism, that stymies free enterprise, that stymies innovation, that stymies productivity, that harms our prosperity, that harms our housing affordability, that robs our children of the opportunities that they deserve? I think it's because a lot of politicians just are there. They want the job for life, their career. And they don't think about what's actually right for their society. And we don't demand that we get the right people in government that know what efficiency, productivity, prosperity is all about. You know, there was that movie back, I think it was the 1970s, Network, where the guy sticks his head out of the window and says, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take this anymore. That's how I feel. You know, like last September, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said that housing isn't a prime responsibility of the federal government. Friday, he comes out with, frankly, a really good, massive policy statement where there's tons of changes. And the federal government is playing a huge role in housing and housing affordability. 2 years ago, the provincial government came out with a housing affordability task force that had 57 recommendations. I think 6 of them or something like that were actually implemented. And things that weren't in there, like opening up the Greenbelt, were implemented and then unimplemented, and the use of ministerial zoning orders. And the one thing that we've all been waiting for since, I think, August of last year is a policy in regards to density around transit stations, which BC has put in place. The federal government is now saying they're going to hold back infrastructure dollars if cities and provinces don't put that in place, has yet to be announced. Ronald Reagan famously asked his government's not the solution, it's the problem. And I really worry that particularly municipal government is the problem. And I think it's because we don't elect people that are change-oriented, that are prosperity-oriented, that are progressive in their attitudes toward development, entrepreneurship, capitalism. And they spend too much time thinking about things that are politically favorable to a small minority of people, but not the things that are right for their community, for their society. You might say that I'm a bit cranky right now. And if I am, and I come across that way, I apologize. But it really bothers me that we've got this by-election going on in Mississauga right now. The 4 leading candidates are all existing city councillors. They're part of the problem. How can they be the solution? It just doesn't make sense. I think if they came out with a massive policy change like Justin Trudeau has come out with in regards to policy on housing, maybe you'd understand it. But it seems like it's a continuation of the past. And how can someone that was there, that created the problems of the past, come forward with the solutions in the future? I don't understand it. And I really worry that we're just going to be in this inertia. We're not going to make changes. We're going to allow the federal government to sort of force us to do the things that we don't really want to do, rather than being what we should be, which is leading. There was that question asked on numerous occasions. I think it came forward a lot during the funeral of the former Prime Minister, Right Honorable Brian Mulroney, recently, about why have political capital? Why have a leadership position if you're not going to actually use it for good? Is it just a job? Is it just being because you want to be in power? Are you just power hungry? Or do you want to actually make positive change for our society? It's interesting that Jean Charest, in his eulogy of Brian Mulroney, said that one of his policies was the least popular with the current people, but the most popular with every successor, and that was the GST. That he put in place this GST that Stephen Harper then came and took 2 points off of it, that, lost his government. He went from a majority government down to 2 seats, but it was the right policy. And every successive prime minister realized it was the right policy. And frankly, I've met with Brian Mulroney once, and he said the stupidest thing Stephen Harper ever did was take 2 points off of it. Maybe he was starving government. But the point being, sometimes when you're in politics, sometimes when you're in a position of leadership, probably you should be doing some things that may not be currently popular, but history will look at you very favorably that you did the right thing. And I really worry that too many politicians want to do the things that are popular, not even for all of society, but just for a small minority group. that may be the loudest, squeakiest minority group, just so they get elected again, because that's the best job they could ever get, rather than thinking through what's the right thing to do. And right now, housing affordability, I think, in the GTA is issue number one. Transit is probably issue number two, because that's how we can get people in a more highly dense environment, out of their homes and to work or to life. And then issue number three is crime. I have heard so many negative comments about crime and how people get let out. I met with a city councillor from the city of Toronto this week who told me that if you're charged with car theft, you get bail right away, and you don't even spend one night in jail, and you're out committing another car theft that very night, if not the next day. We've got some real problems in our communities today, and I worry that we're not thinking about it. And I do think that Joseph's comments about AI are worrisome, and about autonomous vehicles, and both of those things potentially taking away a lot of jobs. If we don't get more productive and more affordable and more prosperous now, what are we going to do in the future when potentially there is unemployment because of autonomous trucks that take away 12%, according to Joseph, of all the jobs that people have driving stuff around? Or the AI that's going to replace entry-level legal people, accounting people, and a lot of other people in white-collar jobs. We need to build affordability now, and we need to build productivity and prosperity now, and we need to elect politicians that have that as their number one objective. A couple thoughts from myself. Thank you for listening tonight. I remind you, on every Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. on 960M. You can stream me online at www.saga960m.ca. All my podcasts and videos are put up as soon as the radio show goes to broadcast on my website, briancrombie.com. The videos are on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And the podcasts are on a whole bunch of different podcast servers that you'll find me on. And please, if you get a chance, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks. Good night, everybody.